Growing up in the 2000s was truly a magical time, especially being a teenage boy in the time of every zombie game ever released. Back in the 2010s era, every game at the time had zombies. Call of Duty, Yakuza, Left 4 Dead, Dead Island, Red Dead Redemption, The Last of Us, The Walking Dead, DayZ. It truly goes on and on. There was nothing like coming home from a long day at middle school, turning on some Black Ops Zombies, cranking my new metal playlist, and praying for a ray gun. But there's one zombie game that I feel gets understated or looked past compared to other games in this genre. And I'm telling you, no one remembers this f***ing video game. Hey, do you remember Lollipop Chainsaw for the Xbox 360? Do you remember that game?
No. Were you dropped onto your head as a baby?
What's up, Slime?
Hey, do you remember the game Lollipop Chainsaw for the Xbox 360?
You're making no fucking sense right now. Lollipop Chainsaw? Are you geeked at noon?
Hey, Ethan, do you remember Lollipop Chainsaw for the Xbox 360?
No. Are you an idiot, dude? I can't believe I'm related to you.
Egon, GameStop in repair a copy of Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza.
Hi, I was just wondering if you remember the game Lollipop Chainsaw. Do you remember that game for the 360?
Lollipop, not quite hitting a memory, no, unfortunately, no. Kyler, I need to stop calling about weird things like that, you know?
Okay. Hey, have you ever heard of Lollipop Chainsaw, that game for the 360? Have you ever heard of that?
No, and can you stop f***ing calling me when I'm at work, dude? God damn, I don't even want to talk to you regularly. Now you f***ing gotta bother me while I'm busy? Jesus.
So you've never heard of it? Hey, do you remember Lollipop Chainsaw, the game for the Xbox 360?
No. Do you have like 20 bucks I can borrow?
Hey, hello? Fuka, do you remember that game for the 360, Lollipop Chainsaw?
Who are you?
Hey, do you remember Lollipop Chainsaw for the Xbox 360? You remember that game?
What is wrong with you?
Pizza Hut. This is Linda. How can I help you?
Hey, I was just wondering if you remember the game Lollipop Chainsaw for the Xbox 360?
This is Pizza Hut. We don't do anything with Xbox.
Oh. Okay, so maybe I'm being a bit hyperbolic here, but Lollipop Chainsaw does get overlooked a lot despite being a super quality game. It's hard to look at Lollipop Chainsaw with my analytical glasses on because it's so simple on the surface. It's built upon bright colors, action, super gory violence, and some of this. This is why I play video games. Hello. Yeah, it might be a bit overstyled. The gameplay may be mind-numbingly simple and have a fucking annoying final boss, but I don't see those as reasons to discredit what a great time playing this game is. Unfortunately for Suda51, the creator of games like No More Heroes and Shadows of the Damned, and co-writer James Gunn, famous for Guardians of the Galaxy and Suicide Squad, not the one, the less one. Lollipop Chainsaw seems to get ignored in the face of other, more complex zombie games that came out in that period. For a genre as saturated as the zombie apocalypse game, Lollipop Chainsaw does mechanically pale compared to more popular titles like Left 4 Dead 2 and Dead Rising 2. Honestly, I think people genuinely overlook this game because of the popularity of Dead Rising 2 specifically. Mostly because both games are exceedingly similar thematically. Dead Rising 2 and Lollipop Chainsaw kind of both fill a similar niche of violent zombie killing game that doesn't really tend to take itself seriously. In terms of gameplay, yeah, Dead Rising 2 is the winner here. It's an open world with tons of weapons and a stronger storyline, but I think Lollipop Chainsaw has many qualities that make it one of the most unique zombie apocalypse games I've ever played. So what makes Lollipop Chainsaw so unique? This game is very clearly designed for teenage boys. The style of the game is super comic booky, from the UI to the over-the-top story that genuinely makes no fucking sense, and the random enemy types that also make no fucking sense. This game could very easily be some Japanese comic book. The models don't look awesome, even for 2012. And this camera could give Resident Evil 1 a run for its money for worst fucking camera in any video game ever. But this game makes up for those shortcomings with over-the-top animations and combos that are satisfying to pull off. I know a big meme on this channel is my disdain for most beat-em-up style games, but this game kinda reminds me of Yakuza in that regard, where the combat isn't my favorite, but they make up for it with abundant irreverence. Where this game shines the most, in my opinion, is in its outrageous combo system. When you pull off huge combos on zombies, it's satisfying in its own right. When you kill multiple zombies in a row, you get a funny splash screen and extra bunts to go with it. And then there are extra moves and other items to help you in the game's shop, which acts as its progression system. Otherwise, that's pretty much the gameplay. Fuck up zombies. There are little mini games that you can play using Juliet Starling's decapitated boyfriend, but genuinely these don't amount to much other than just random QuickTime events. The platforming is the same thing with just certain button presses or random QuickTime events. Honestly, it could seem like this is almost too simple for a fun video game, but in my opinion, sometimes the simplest things work the best. I mean, look at Tetris. But when you get into the game and start playing, you will play and not even realize, holy shit, I just wasted 2 fucking hours. Honestly, what keeps me so enthralled with the game is its exaggerated story and sense of humor. This game does not one time take itself seriously. It's to the point where the over-satirical nature of it can dampen the overall experience at points. But even replaying this as an adult in my mid-20s, I still found myself laughing hysterically at a lot of the punchy 2012 humor that I longed for in my adulthood.
How am I still alive? How am I still talking without a f***ing thorax?
The voice acting can be a mixed bag per se. Juliet Starling is voice acted nearly f***ing perfectly by prolific actress Tara Strong, also known for her role as every character in every piece of media ever f***ing created. She perfectly captures Juliet's sarcastic bubblegum nature, but I think that Michael Rosenbaum as Nick was certainly the choice. He kind of plays generic white boy 4000, which is kind of just what the character is, but some of these lines are kind of delivered funny. To boil down the story, it's Juliet Starling's 18th birthday. Anywho, Juliet goes out to meet her boyfriend Nick before school, and uh-oh, zombie apocalypse. Thank God she had the trusty chainsaw that she brought to school. Unfortunately, when she gets to Nick, he gets bitten on the arm by a zombie, essentially writing his death note. Thankfully, before the virus spreads to Nick's brain, she decapitates him, performs a magic ritual that is never explained, by the way, and hooks him to her belt, thus allowing him to put his head on other zombie bodies and clear certain paths for Juliet. From here, it's pretty simple. The main villain, Swan, sends out several zombie purveyors across the school who are more intelligent zombie bosses, and now it's your job to purify the school of the zombie purveyors. Not a super serious plot, obviously, but good enough to service the quippy humor and outlandish visuals. Couple this with a great soundtrack featuring a host of different bands like Five Finger Death Punch, Skrillex, and Dragon Force, and you have yourself a very solid 2012 game that I played to death and back. The game also received a pretty faithful remake in 2024, but received pretty negative reviews from fans and critics, citing poor optimization, removal of licensed music, and no graphics options, among other things. So, that's it. Thanks for watching. I'm kidding. What I really want to do is compare this game to the other games in the genre and then see why this game is so overlooked. Looking at other games in the genre, it's pretty cut and dry as to why this game gets ignored so much. Earlier, I mentioned Dead Rising 2, but the other game that I think captured the zombie genre pretty well is Left 4 Dead 2. The game was reviewed positively, created a lasting legacy, and had some stellar gameplay. Nearly the opposite of what happened to Lollipop Chainsaw. Reviews were pretty mediocre, was mostly forgotten, and had some simple gameplay. Plug in pretty much any other zombie game into this formula, and I don't know if Lollipop Chainsaw wins a single match. Even zombie games that were made as side game filler like Call of Duty or Yakuza still kinda kick Lollipop Chainsaw out to the curb. But now that the genre has become so saturated, we've been handed a ton of zombie game shitters like Days Gone, Unturned, and World War Z. Plugging these games into the formula, Lollipop Chainsaw doesn't look so bad now, huh? I think most of the obscurity comes from the fact that it just doesn't work in a 2025 context. Barely legal zombie heroine wears a skimpy outfit that you can make even skimpier is problematic. to say the least. Plus, the outdated gameplay and visuals kind of just keep the game from being as classic as it should be. Not to mention the game received 0 sequels or love despite being Grasshopper Manufacture's most successful video game to date, selling over 1.24 million units. The lack of respect that Lollipop Chainsaw gets just kinda shows why it faded into obscurity. But honestly, I think that this is kinda shitty. Maybe it's the nostalgia of wanting to go back to a simpler time, but replaying this recently really rekindled my love for the game. I love it because it's not trying to be anything it's not. It's not trying to be super serious like Left 4 Dead. It's not trying to be complex like Dead Rising 2. It's trying to be exactly what it is. A campy zombie hack and slash that has me rolling on the floor laughing one moment and excited about breaking off some crazy combo 2 seconds later. If you have any interest in Gen 7 video games, I sincerely recommend you go back and check out this forgotten gem, but maybe look in a secondhand store. This game never received a reprint, so it's getting kinda rare and pricey. I paid $40 for this game, dude.
Hey, thank you for calling Applebee's. This is Karen. How may I assist you?
Hey, I was wondering if you remember the game Lollipop Chainsaw for the Xbox 360?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do. Oh my gosh, that game is so old.
Oh, I knew it!